Hello and welcome to this episode of India Fights Back. Here we take a stock of the battle against COVID-19 pandemic. I am Vishal Dahiya, and today we're going to talk about the new guidelines as far as testing strategy is concerned. Now, Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, has recently come up with new guidelines for the testing strategy. One amongst them says that now testing can be done on demand. We'll try and understand more about these revised guidelines. What do they mean and what impact will they have as far as our fight against COVID-19 is concerned, and from a public health perspective, and what do these guidelines mean for the common people like you and me. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Samiran Panda, who is a Scientist G and head of the ECD division in ICMR, New Delhi. We're also joined by Dr. Puneet Mishra, professor of community medicine at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and Dr. K. Rambabu is the professor of medicine and COVID nodal officer in Andhra Pradesh. Let me begin with you, Dr. Samiran Panda, and let's start by giving our viewers a lowdown on the revised guidelines. What do they contain? The highlights.
Well, the new guideline, which is available in the public domain, that has been uploaded on the ICMR website, is actually a modification of the old one. So it's an evolving process. All the guidelines that ICMR comes up with, that always draws upon two sources of information. One is the new scientific developments of the information that globally becomes available, and more specifically becomes available from within the country. And the second source of information that helps modifying the guideline is mapping the needs of the people as well as the evolving nature of the epidemic and the changing transmission dynamics. These are the two major considerations. Of course, there are other considerations as well, but these are the two major sources of information based on which the guidelines get modified or developed. This new modified guideline that has come up talks about the testing strategies that one should adopt in a particular setting or situation. And if one goes through it, it clearly talks about the zones or the geographical regions and the population group in which the testing would happen, or somebody is planning to undertake a test. Similarly, is it just a public health tool or it's an individual requirement? That was also taken into account. And on-demand test is about somebody who wishes to know his or her status. But here, two issues are very important for us to remember. No test should be done based on a panic attack, that I have some sore throat, I'm feeling a bit feverish, so probably I need to go and do a test. That's not the whole purpose. And it should not be even every alternate day. Out of my anxiety, I keep on doing the tests. That's also not a very healthy way of looking into the needs, individual need I'm talking about. So yes, if somebody is willing to know, he or she could go to the government setting or to a private setting. But health being a state subject, every state health authority will have its own discretion. The second most important point that I want to say is about the quality of it. Because the moment we say that, well, it does not require actually a physician's prescription to go and seek a test. So it's about me feeling ill or me being an individual experiencing certain symptoms, and then I go to a public healthcare setting or a private healthcare setting and seeking help. If that's the scenario, then I also need to ensure that I go to the approved centers or the laboratories. So quality control is an issue, because in India, we have seen that be it test, be it treatment, a whole lot of unregulated sector come into play. And I cannot say that the intention there is to help people to know their status or to help people seek treatment and avail treatment. Unscrupulous business flourishing in actually, undermining the needs of the people we have witnessed. So in essence, what I would say that this changed guideline has taken into account the evolving disease transmission dynamics. We do have a general geographical setting. We do have containment zones. So here, when we talk about containment zones or presence of a considerable number of individuals who are infected with SARS-CoV-2 and others need to be screened, naturally, there is a need for rapid antigen-based test. And in a symptomatic person, if a rapid antigen-based test gives you a positive result, that should be considered as positive. Whereas a symptomatic person who undertakes a rapid antigen test and comes up with a negative result, that should be backed up by an RT-PCR test, which is much more sensitive. But that's also being flouted. So what all I am saying is that the game has now become much easier, much user-friendly, has taken into account the disease transmission dynamics and also the needs, felt expressed needs of people and the community members. But that does not necessarily mean that anything and everything is okay. No, anything and everything is not okay. The quality of the tests, where does one go to seek a test? And then it should not be a panic reaction. One person goes every alternate day and tells the clinics to do a test for him or her. These are not the intended purposes. And finally, it should not be an unregulated practice of tests where quality is compromised and business actually clouds the clear understanding.
Okay, so what you're pointing out is clearly that the new guidelines, as have been revised time and again, are based on the evolving dynamics of this battle against COVID-19. And one very significant aspect is the testing on demand now being approved by ICMR. Well, we bring in Dr. Puneet Mishra here. Dr. Mishra, your views on this very important aspect of new guidelines, because since the start of this fight against COVID-19, the overall guideline from ICMR was that testing should be done only when it is prescribed by a doctor, an authorized health professional. But now testing is being allowed on a demand basis. So how would you look at this particular aspect from a public health angle?
Yes, as Dr. Panda has already pointed out about the new strategies which has been adopted by ICMR, as we know, the disease is evolving, our understanding is evolving, and a few months back there was lockdown, there was no movement, right? And we have limited number of tests which were available, and the number of cases they were limited in the country. As the situation is evolving, as the number of cases they are increasing, and also the movement is increasing. There are many regions for which people, they might need tests on demand. And most importantly, when the person travels from one state to other state, many states, they require that if you want to, enter that state, you need to have a negative test. Only then you can go, whether it is for business, it is for tourism, or for some other purpose. And if you don't have negative test, then you would be under quarantine. So this has become very important because now we are going through unlock phase, and movement is increasing because of business, because of education purpose, tourism purpose, and many other purposes. So I think this is a very good step. The other thing is that if you remember, in initial phases there were many people who were very much worried. I mean, how would they get tested if they have to go somewhere, or there are certain things. Now the guidelines has been made really easy because we have more number of tests available, and also different modality. We have RT-PCR, we have rapid antigen test and CVNet. And this policy, this time, they are very clear in what situation and what circumstances which test should be preferred. I mean, there are certain scenarios where they are saying, okay, first you do rapid antigen or you do RT-PCR. Besides on demand, there is one more thing which is very encouraging. We have to start, the routine health services, and many of the doctors, they are not taking, the patients who are non-COVID or they are having different ailments. Here, the guidelines have been made little more easy for the patients who require hospitalization for non-COVID reasons. So I think this would have a very good impact in the sense it will reduce panic on one hand. Number two, it would be available on the wide range of services, whether for hospital admissions, whether for travel, whether for containment zone, non-containment zone, and those who are seriously sick or having comorbidities or having age of 65 years, along with the person who require to get it done because of any other reason, whether it is travel or any other requirement. So I think that is a very welcome step, and ICMR has taken this move to revise the guidelines in timely manner, and it was a need of ours. So
Okay.
that I think it is a welcome.
Okay, definitely. Once again, the evolving dynamics part is really important here, because as we move along, we not only learn a lot more about the virus, but we are also expanding our area of operation in terms of unlocking, moving ahead, going back to our work, and obviously we as of now will have to live with this virus, but we'll also have to fight this particular pandemic. Let me bring in Dr. K. Rambabu here. Dr. Rambabu, as our panelists also pointed out, and all of us know that health is a state subject. Now, not only you are a professor of medicine, but also the COVID nodal officer for the state of Andhra Pradesh. So from a state's point of view, what is the kind of, impact these new guidelines will have in the strategy which are adopted by all states, and specifically in your case, the state of Andhra Pradesh?
Yeah, thank you very much. So both speakers already enlightened the what are the new guidelines, which are little bit changes here. So one thing I would like to say proudly that so in India, and Andhra Pradesh is the #1 state. As far as concerned about the per million tests, it is 81,783 tests per million. So Andhra Pradesh is the #1 test, and till now, so we did the 43 lakhs tests. So just to go by this new guidelines, so already we are following that one. Yesterday we did the 71,692 tests. So in these tests, what we did that one, RT-PCR, TrueNAT, and the rapid antigen test. So what the guidelines have given that, so containment zone, we have to prefer the rapid antigen test first, then go for the RT-PCR. Then when you go for the non-containment zone, first you prefer the RT-PCR, TrueNAT, CBNAT, or in the hospital settings also RT-PCR, TrueNAT, or the CBNAT, then go for the rapid antigen test is next. So this is in nutshell. So briefly that saying that containment zone, you have to get the patient very fastly, so rapid antigen role will come. But here there is a hiccups that rapid antigen, how many tests will become positive, how much of the percentage is positive, that's the point. And again you have to go back to the RT-PCR again, that is the second one, because you have to do the both tests at a time for that once it turns to be the negative. So for that also the guidelines are very clear that for us is that if the rapid antigen, in my view and in my experience also, in this pandemic, if the patient is suffering with fever and dyspnea, with the decreased saturations, 100%, so he is coming positive. It's so highly sensitive that we are afraid to do this rapid antigen test. After 10 days, if any patient is asking the go for this test, it is coming and positive. So my view about this one that, so yesterday results I will tell, RT-PCR comes as out of 28,000 we did, it's a 15% is positive. TrueNAT is that out of 3,749, it is 29% positive. But whereas rapid antigen we did 39,674, out of that we got 4,800. That means that 12% is positive. Still we are concerned about this rapid antigen, whether we are misusing that one. That's why these new guidelines have come, because on demand, once the patient is coming, you have to see that what is the patient complaints and which area so he is coming, whether it is from the high risk group is there, and already ICMR given that what is the high risk group of the 17 categories which are there: healthcare workers, sanitary workers, frontline warriors, migrants, fever clinics, or industrial workers, postmen, bank officers, prisoners, so many, the list of the 17 which are there. You have to follow those guidelines. Then this rapid antigen test which is coming up out of the the 40,000 only the 12%, so which may come down. So this is one of the most important welcoming sign for the ICMR, which is divided this one. And most importantly, they divided the another important one is hospital setting. That is another important one that so you have to go for the anyhow malignancy, comorbidities, immunosuppression, those comes under the high risk group anyhow, that will be there. But SARI and also the symptomatics, so who are there of the healthcare workers, so they have to be first do with the RT-PCR, not with the rapid antigen. That is another guideline, so what I found. So ILA symptoms, anyhow, you know that acute respiratory infection with fever and the cough are there with the less than 10 days of duration. You have to go for that. And if the SARI is there, SARI added thing with this acute respiratory infection, fever, and also with the cough is there, need of the hospitalization when the SATs come down, then it comes under the SARI. So this also you have to plan for the RT-PCR first, then go for the rapid antigen test is second. So this is the in nutshell of the guidelines.
Okay. Dr. Panda, your views on that coming in from Dr. Ram Babu, you know, the man in charge on the ground as far as states are concerned, because as you said earlier, ultimately health is a state subject, although the guidelines framed by ICMR have to be followed to the letter T.
Right. I would like to underline one more thing in addition to what Dr. Rambabu has said. The moment a test becomes less restrictive in nature, that's exactly what we are talking about. There is a chance that the test is misutilized to deny services. So this guideline also very clearly says that if a pregnant woman needs to be tested, or for an individual who is waiting for a surgical intervention, the test should not be used as a tool to deny the health services or to deny the services that a pregnant woman would benefit from. The other important point is about the neonates. If the newborn children, they are symptomatic, they need to be tested as well, and mother to child care also needs to be taken into account. Let's assume that a mother is positive for SARS-CoV-2, but the baby is absolutely healthy, not symptomatic. So unnecessarily, we may not expose the child to swab taking and testing, but the mother and the parents, both the parents actually need to be told about the hand cleaning, hand hygiene basically, the use of mask and the breast cleaning, because these are very important. Now, any test that is taken away from any restriction could be misused. So that misuse needs to be taken care of by the state health authority. So the test not only should be brought under the folds of business and the money clouds the clear thinking who should do the test and who should not, but also the test should not be employed to deny the health services that falls under the fundamental right of an individual. And the state health authority is to ensure that. One cannot say, oh, ICMR should step in, let's say in West Bengal or in Delhi or in Tamil Nadu. ICMR is not responsible for health service delivery. Health is a state subject. State should ensure that people are not being denied of services that they should rightfully obtain. Now the test is free from all restrictions, so it should not be fall under the prey of the unscrupulous business people.
Okay, and definitely that would be the endeavor of the state health officers out there and those involved like Dr. Ram Babu. We'll come back to you, Dr. Ram Babu, for another thing. But let me bring in Dr. Puneet Mishra here. For Dr. Mishra, your views on these two aspects, that it is really, really important to understand these revised guidelines and implement them also properly, both for the authorities and for the general public as well.
Yes, as Dr. Panda has already pointed out that health is a subject matter, and see, the job of ICMR to formulate the guidelines and the implementation, the correct, it depends on the state authorities. See, the guidelines are basically to guide the basic health facility or the services But how they are implemented and how the benefit they reach to the public, that depends on the state health authorities. And as we are going to start the routine health services, because we want that the routine health services, they should not suffer because of COVID. So for that, the provisions have been made into these guidelines, and they have been very clear that even if suppose a pregnant lady and goes and there is a need for the delivery, in absence of even testing, I mean, if it is not done or something, they should not be denied the services. So I think the guidelines are comprehensive, they are more open, they're less restrictive, and we are using the optimal, use of RT-PCR, RHT, and CB-NAT technique in different scenarios. So in that thing, I feel the giving guidelines was the responsibility of ICMR, but implementation of these guidelines in the correct split, it depends on the state, because ICMR cannot play, I think, any role over there. So it's very important that state health officers, they take these guidelines in the right split and implement in their state, so that the public at large can be benefited.
Okay. Let's hear the final comments from Dr. Rambabu. Dr. Rambabu, from your point of view, these new guidelines or the revised guidelines, which may further perhaps in future as well, we might see more revision because of the evolving dynamic situation. How would you put all these things vis-a-vis the public health needs on the ground level there as the nodal officer of a particular state?
Yeah. Most important thing is that, so how many districts you are having, and each district, so how many missions you are having, and what is the capacity of those missions, and from which area so you are able to get the samples, and just by collecting the samples and keeping all the samples there and not giving the reports at the more than the 48 hours or the 72 hours, so there is no meaning, that the purpose is not served. So what we are doing here is that first we will give that what is the capacity of the machines you are having. So if the district is having 4 RT-PCR, 15 TrueNAT machines are having, and the rapid antigen tests are some 20,000 or 30,000 with you, then at which area so you are supposed to spread that one, whether it is in the PHC areas or the CHC areas, which areas you are supposed to go, and the containment zone, how much you are supposed to give. Every day you are supposed to plan this one, and you have to take the review with all your officers, and then what is the capacity of RT-PCR, whether it is what is the mission of that one. So some missions will have the more than 100 will be there, or the some missions will have the 200, 300 will be there. So like that, so you have to see that containment zone, how many things you have to go, and non-containment zone, how many things, high risk people, how many things you have to go. You have to give the line by line and give the numbers, and try to see that less than 24 hours to 48 hours the patient should get the report. That is one of the most important one to bring down the mortality rate, because the patient will come to you at least for the 2 to 3 days of fever, and then after that you are taking the sample, and after 2 to 3 days if you are getting the report, then one day after that patient shifted to the, whether it is home isolation, CCC center, or otherwise hospitalization, then the active phase of the disease is gone. As you know that the first phase is so important of the less than 1 week. Once it is going into the moderate stage of the pulmonary hypoxic phase and the non-hypoxic phase, it is very short period of the 2 to 3 days will be there, and once the non-hypoxic phase to the hypoxic phase patient is gone, there is no further action will be there, because remdesivir action will also be gone at that time, and you have to depend upon the oxygen, steroids, and the low molecular weight heparins, tocilizumab, so whatever the different modalities, so we have to go. So that's why what is our action regarding this one, so we are never bothered about that what is the positivity rate we are getting on, because in spite of that we never cut short the tests, even we are going on increasing the tests from 50,000 to the now it is 70,000 we are going, and our recovery rate is also more than 79%, and our case fatality rate is less than 0.9%, and sometimes it is 0.8% compared to the national average of the 1.8 or the 1.9 and the global average of the 3.33. So my suggestion and my advice to that one, please see that how much of capacity you are having in your state or in your district, and the state authorities is supposed to give that how much you are supposed to do. It is not the target that you have go and do the 5,000, 6,000 tests and see that other state is doing so many tests. I have to do so many tests. It's not like that.
Okay.
Because pulling up of all the samples there with and not giving the reports for the more than 2 to 3 days, so the purpose is not served.
Okay. So it's all about proper planning and effective implementation of the guidelines with respect to what is required on the ground out there. Thank you so much, Dr. K. Rambabu, Dr. Puneet Mishra, and Dr. Samiran Panda for sharing your views and time with us and our viewers. So this is all about new guidelines for the testing strategy as far as COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, and these guidelines are not only meant to go ahead and ease the situation for both the health workers, the policy decision makers and the general public, but all these stakeholders will also have to work together to ensure that these are implemented properly on the ground. We'll come back again with a different topic tomorrow and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha television, but please do not forget to wear a face mask when you step out of your houses, because this is the best defense against COVID-19 as of now. Thank you.